Welcome to the SENDcast. My name is Dale Pickles. I'm the host of the SENDcast and the managing director of B Squared. Each week on the podcast, me and a guest will talk about a different topic within the world of SEND to improve our knowledge, to provide support to professionals working in schools, to empower parents and to raise awareness. In this episode, we discussed removing the fear of reading, and I was joined by Vicki Edgar from Fonetti. Vicki is the Director of Sales and Partnerships at Fonetti and also the co-founder of the National Read Aloud Challenge, which you'll find out more about in a few minutes. Vicki was diagnosed with dyslexia when she was 7 and wants to make sure that children don't grow up with a fear of reading like she did. The SENDcast is created by us here at B Squared, and we help schools to show the small steps of progress pupils with SEND make. And we help schools to show progress for a wide range of abilities and ages. We have a range of frameworks to suit students from birth all the way through to 25, and not just on the academic stuff as well. For our most complex learners working below your primary curriculum, we have our engagement steps, and this looks at some informal, semi-formal learning, and it really helps you build a profile of the student needs, and it can show the progress they're making, however spiky or however small it is. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me to take you through our assessment software. Now, let's get on with that podcast. My guest this week is Vicki Edgar from Fonetti. Vicki is the Director of Sales and Partnerships at Fonetti and also a co-founder of the National Read Aloud Challenge. The National Read Aloud Challenge is a free summer reading challenge for children across the UK, giving children access to books and to promote a love of reading over the summer. Vicki was diagnosed with dyslexia when she was 7 and wants to make sure that children don't grow up with a fear of reading like she did. Welcome to the show, Vic.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are welcome. And you can now go, no, I'm on here too, Sarah, to Dr. Sarah Mosley. Can't you?
I can't.
So your mission is you don't want children to be afraid of reading. This is obviously a very personal mission for you. So let's start with your experiences around reading at school.
So at the ripe old age of 43 years old, I still remember vividly being in that classroom setting and knowing that a teacher was going to turn around to you and say, Vicki, stand up and read aloud in front of all of your friends. And with that, the fear just overcome me, much like it is now, this second. But no, the fear was so real. And I knew that I was going to stand up. I knew the words were going to start moving over the page. I knew that everything was going to be jumping up and down in front of me. My anxiety would go through the roof. And actually, in my mind, as a teenager at the time, I was just going to kill my street cred. I was going to embarrass myself in front of all my friends and put the fear of everything into me. And it still sits with me to this very day, those feelings. So I really just want to make sure that children don't have to have that fear, because trust me, it lives with you and it really isn't a very nice feeling.
So you were diagnosed with dyslexia at 7. Obviously, that's not when your difficulties around reading started. Obviously, started earlier than that. So when you were diagnosed, were you in a mainstream setting?
I was in a small local primary school, and at that time in the 80s, dyslexia wasn't recognised in my local authority, and I was lucky enough that my parents were able to take me out of the state school and put me into a private school. But even then, the private school that they sent me to didn't have dyslexia one-on-one sessions, so therefore they had to then take me out of that school once a week to a specific school that did help with dyslexia. And so, but I was lucky enough to be in the position that my parents were able to support that for me.
And again, I always think when we think dyslexia, we obviously think the difficulty of reading, but just hearing like your story about there, it's the secondary things. It's street cred being lost. It's the anxiety. It's actual. There's a huge mental health impact, and it's not just because you have a diagnosis doesn't get rid of that.
Of course it doesn't. Because once you're dyslexic, you're dyslexic. It doesn't. And to this day, I can still struggle with reading and the enjoyment of reading, which dyslexia doesn't just go away overnight. It is something you learn to live with. And actually, I've placed it in my mind now and made my dyslexia my superpower, because I am a very creative thinker. And so I've learned how to use my dyslexia to my advantage.
Now, some people don't like it when you say, I use my autism as a superpower and my dyslexia as a superpower. And I think when people think they're thinking within the context of a school, and I think when you're in that school, the environment doesn't allow you to be that creative thinker, it doesn't allow you to use it. But I think once you get out of that restrictive environment and you can shape the world how you want, you can use it to your advantage, can't you?
Absolutely.
That thing, I think some people going, the thing I think of is you probably wasn't, there was there's not a single benefit for it when you're in school. It was just a challenge. It got in the way of everything, restricted everything, because you had to demonstrate your knowledge and abilities in a specific way.
I actually took to drama when I was at school, purely and simply because that way I could show my confidence and my bubbly personality that I have and so on, because I was able to quietly and silently go off and learn my words. And so I didn't have to stand there reading the words aloud. I learnt them and then I performed them, and I actually was lucky enough to play some amazing characters in some magnificent school plays, and it really made me shine through those characters.
And it's great because, again, as soon as you have a diagnosis of some form, actually that decisions can be made for you on whether or not you can do things. And sometimes it's through fear, but sometimes people may say, oh, she can't do that, she's dyslexic, we can't give her that script to read, she can't better it because it's your struggle. And it's great that you actually you weren't restricted, that actually you found your own way of doing it, you learned those words in your own way and were able to shine, which is really, really good.
No. The thing is as well with dyslexia, it is just a different way of learning as well, isn't it? It's not a case of one size fits all for any child or any person. Once you've learned your coping mechanisms and you've learned how to engage in your learning, then you can strive.
Definitely. And again, your dyslexia didn't just impact you at school, because you did babysitting when you were 16, you were telling me before.
Yes. So again, another vivid memory. I was actually babysitting a 6-year-old little girl, a family friend's daughter, and typically put her to bed. She said, "Vicki, can you read me a bedtime story?" It was a picture book. I opened it up. I didn't even finish the first page before she snatched the book off of me and said, "I'll read it to you, shall I? I can read better than you." Literally, all I could think of in that moment in time is, how am I going to move forward when I get to the point where I have my own children? How am I going to be able to confidently read a bedtime story to my children? Luckily enough, when the time came, my son got very, very fixated on one particular book, Norman the Slug with the Silly Shell. And so I was absolutely able to memorize that book because I read it every single night for almost probably 2 years. So I was able to kind of confidently read it to him and really bring that story to life for him.
And that is kind of masking, isn't it? Kind of hiding what you can't do, memorize it. And it's interesting as you kind of talk to different people, the different kind of little things they do, which kind of means that in the real world, you can quite well hide your dyslexia. And sometimes it is you are hiding it. You may not notice you are. It's a subconscious thing, but you might say something. You go, yeah. Haven't read it, but you kind of know that's the response that's expected. Another way, you probably do extra work beforehand to prepare so that no one notices.
Absolutely, yes.
But that doesn't necessarily work in a school environment because you are having to do that exam. You can't prepare word for word. You don't have the questions beforehand. You can't do it a different way. And it's that sort of thing when the impact of dyslexia can be so much worse at school than outside of school.
Yeah, it is the not knowing, isn't it? It is that not being able to prepare, as you say, and not being in control as well, I think maybe is behind that.
So do you still have a fear of reading?
I don't have a fear of reading. I do sometimes still struggle with reading. I've been fortunate enough with Fonetti and having to do a lot of book readings and demos and so on and so forth that actually I have been able to practice my reading there and build that confidence. And actually, for the first time in 40 odd years, just after my 40th birthday, I went to Spain for a couple of weeks and I sat on that beach and I read not one, not two, but 4 books over the space of 2 weeks. It was an absolute incredible achievement. I remember ringing my mum and she was just like, I was so proud of.
And again, see, if I'd done that, I'd actually be proud I read 4 books. I found the time to sit down and read it. But again, for the ability to just pick up a book and start reading, I take for granted. And it is quite a nice thing to sit there and just read a book and get lost in that book. But just for you to do that, that takes extra effort, extra work, extra cognitive load just to be able to access the same book I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will take me 3 or 4 times longer to read that story as well. But I get there and I do it in my own pace. I do it at the time that it takes me, but I get there.
Would you recommend those 4 books? Were they a bit of a waste of time or?
Absolutely loved them. Really, really great.
Were they ones you specifically chose? Like, these are the 4 books I want to read, or were they just 4 randomly chosen?
No, so one of them was actually a book called It Ends With Us. And it was just before, I didn't realise, but there was a film associated to it. And I didn't actually realise that until after I'd got back from holiday. But so I bought this book on Amazon, just thinking, just in case, and then realised that it was a sequel. And so I thought, do you know what? I'll get both of them. I think it was cheaper to buy both of them together or something. So I did buy both of them. And then one of my best friends had actually written a book about 2 or 3 years ago or prior to that I'd never read. And I thought, I think I'd even forgotten that I'd even put that in the suitcase. So when I'd read both It Ends With Us and then It Starts With Us, then I ended up going on to Amy's book and read that. And then realised that I didn't actually have any books left. So I was searching bookshops in Fingarola to find books, English books, and then ended up reading another one. And it was incredible.
Again, it's one of those things where so many things you take for granted, and then just hearing the joy of that is really nice. It's just a sort of, I'm going to do this and I've done it. And like reading your friend's book, it's something you'd want to do. Everyone would want to, if their friend's written a book, you want to read it, wouldn't you? But it's actually, that's a barrier just to you accessing. So being able to actually read it, it's really not. Yeah, it's just those things we take for granted every single day that you can just do that when someone can't, we kind of hard to really, we talk about empathy, putting yourself there, but if you don't really understand dyslexia, if you don't have those conversations around those difficulties, and it's not that first level, I kind of struggle with reading, but actually what does that mean? What's the kind of wider implications? Will you really be able to emphasize or have that compassion for that person in that way?
Yeah, I think you're right there.
So there is a thing called the National Read Aloud Challenge. What is it?
So the National Read Aloud Challenge is a free summer reading challenge that we have built. We're coming into our 4th year of the challenge. It's powered by our reading platform, Fonetti. And basically, if I just go back to Fonetti, if that's okay,
Yeah.
just for a moment. So Fonetti is a read aloud platform that allows children to visually get feedback in real time as the children are reading the stories on the platform. So works really, really well for especially those reluctant and struggling readers, because the words change colour as they read aloud. So the words will go green as they read them correctly. If they miss a word or mispronounce it, it just subtly goes grey. So it doesn't stop their flow, but it allows them to visually see they've not quite got that word correct. But they can double tap the word on the page, hear Fonetti tell them what that word is so they can practice it, repeat it, and then hopefully make it go green. And then at the end of the every single story, the child can earn stars, giving it a gamification element. Now, we've been working for the last few years with schools to bring Fonetti into their classrooms, to give the children the confidence of reading aloud, improving their fluency and oracy. And then we give lots of data back to the teachers in a school portal so that they are able to see the data and save them time. And then we kind of realised that we've got this most amazing, no one biased, we've got this most amazing platform, reading platform for children. And actually, when we know that only 1 in 9 children own a book, and equally couple that with summer when reading regression is huge, schools tend to find that they are reteaching for the first half term, I believe, reteaching pretty much what they taught in the summer term, because children have switched off. 6 weeks is a long time for us, let alone for children. So for children to not be doing anything academic in that time really does put them back. And we know, what is it now, 25% of children are leaving primary education not meeting those required levels of reading. And so we wanted to do our part to help hopefully stop that. So we created the National Read Aloud Challenge. And the challenge is open to all children in the UK from the ages of 5 through to 15. And we have lots and lots of different books for the children to read throughout the challenge. We've got fiction, non-fiction, poetry. We've recently just brought in a news desk as well. So we've released every single week, we release current news articles, which is really engaging for the children and keeping them in the know of what's going on in the world. So we've got a great amount of content. And the way that it works for the children is there are leaderboards. So the children are getting their stars for completing their books. They've got their milestones within their app. So they've got the gamification there. But on the national online leaderboard, the children are not only competing against their peers, but they are competing against other children nationally. The way that we run the challenge is via schools as well. So this is where it gets really clever. So basically, a school will sign up to the National Read Aloud Challenge. Again, totally free, doesn't cost a penny to anybody to take part in the challenge. The school will sign up. Once they've signed up, they are given their own unique personal web page. And on that personal web page, if they've uploaded their logo, they will have personalised assets to share. So they'll have posters to put around the school and letters to be sent through to parents and carers, social media posts, things to put on their newsletters, and so on and so forth, so that they are promoting the challenge. Every single bit of that material has a unique URL or QR code to that school. So they'll promote it to the parents. The parents then sign up their children with that particular code. So we know that that child is linked to that particular school. So the children then go on throughout July and August. So the challenge runs from the 1st of July all the way through to the 31st of August. And the children read aloud in that time. They are earning certificates. Our brand ambassador is Claire Balding and really, really supportive. So all of the certificates are signed by her. And she's really encouraging throughout the challenge as well. So I mentioned about the leaderboards for the children. The fun bit is because for the schools, the children are linked to the schools, we have school leaderboards as well. So schools compete against local schools, but again, they compete nationally as well. And if they're part of a multi-academy trust, they have their own trust leaderboards too. So it is brilliant competition between SLT from each of the schools. I know the head teachers have set up like WhatsApp groups over the summer holidays to say, oh, I've just taken over your school and so on and so forth. So really fun engagement for the teachers and the children, and we're getting the children reading over the summer holidays. With regards to kind of the impacts that we have seen from the challenge so far, as I say, we have had 3 successful challenges now. In total, we have supported over 25,000 registered children, and that's across 411,000 reading sessions throughout the challenge so far. To put that into context, it's 3 million reading minutes that children have read on Fonetti throughout the National Read Aloud Challenge. The first year, in 2023, when we did the challenge, we peaked at 104 hours, reading hours, in one day. Then in 2024, we peaked at 224 reading hours in one particular day. And this is pure reading. This is like, if you can imagine, you've got the children going in, they're then picking the books and everything else. And that's all additional time to this. So this is pure reading. So last summer, we started on day one at 225 hours of reading, which obviously topped the previous 2 years. It was absolutely phenomenal to see the engagement throughout the challenge. And we were averaging on around 279 reading hours every single day over that 2-month period of children that typically would not have been reading, picking up our platform. It's web-based as well, so they can access it on an iPad, they can access it on a Chromebook, laptop, Kindle, and so on and so forth. So it really is easily accessible for a lot of children. Talking about reading hours and so on, the last day, the 31st of August, obviously you've got to remember that these children are really competing on the leaderboards. So they are getting very, very competitive because they can see that little Jimmy's just taken over little Freddie, and so they are going for it. We actually saw 454 hours worth of reading on the 31st of August, and it was just absolutely... what the fact that we're doing that, we are changing children's lives. There's one particular little boy, a little boy called Arlen, that we followed over the challenge. And we've got examples of his first reading session on Fonetti, where he's blending, he's decoding, he's got his mum in the background helping him with the reading on the platform. And then we've got a copy of one of his last sessions where that little boy, 6 years old, in just 60 days, had become a fluent reader, a confident, fluent reader. And we actually reached out to his mum and said, we've come across your little boy and the difference seems just amazing. And she almost cried on the phone and just said, I cannot thank you enough. You have changed my little boy's life. Before he started using Fonetti and took part in the National Read Aloud Challenge, I could never get him to pick up a book, let alone for pleasure. She said, now I am having to take him to W.H. Smith's to go and buy physical books. Sorry, not sorry.
But it is nice because, again, lots of libraries have these book challenges, and it is a case of you say you read it, you hand it back. And one thing I do like about the Fonetti is A, you're reading aloud, which you mean. And what I like about that is obviously going back to you in school, you reading aloud, that's being judged by everyone. And I think even being judged by one other person isn't nice. If you're talking and then your teacher's correcting you, that's just going to destroy your confidence. So the fact that Fonetti, you said, isn't destroying the flow. So you're getting the greens when you get it right and you can keep going. But if you get one slightly wrong, it will go grey. It's not going to stop you. You can choose to stop. That's your choice. You might see that grey word and go, oh, it's that one again, and keep going. But no one else knows. That's a private thing. That's you and that app know that. No one else does. You can keep working on it. You can keep practicing. And not only is it building that confidence with the reading, but it's also helping your pronunciation, which means if you are called to read aloud in class, you're going to be much more confident because you know you're doing it correctly. There's reading in your head and reading out loud very different. So lots of benefits I see to the that challenge. And as you said, it's completely free. And the children get access to all the books within the Fonetti app, all for free. And the idea is just to keep that reading up over summer. And I missed it. So let's say I believe. You had an awards ceremony, didn't you? February?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
Did you forget?
This is the penultimate.
She only sent me an invite a week before and I was busy. Not upset.
No, you're coming this year.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. So, yes, as I mentioned, the schools have their online leaderboards, and so the schools are competing against each other locally and nationally. But we have regional awards, the regional awards ceremony, sorry. So through the rich data that we're getting through Fonetti, and how the leaderboards are designed and so on and so forth, we can see what the top performing school is for every single region. That top school is invited to London to our National Read Aloud Challenge Awards ceremony. It's fully funded, and the top school from every single region, so from London, Scotland, Northern Ireland, everywhere, all come and enjoy a totally free day at Amazon HQ. Claire Balding hosts the ceremony, and it is most probably one of my most favourite days of the year because you have two teachers from the winning school and two of their top pupils that come along. We give out their awards, but we have lots of different sessions with them, and we hear what the challenge has done for each of those children. And we do regularly hear of children that weren't confident in reading or confident within themselves, and then they were able to stand up in front of 200 people at the awards ceremony and go and accept their award very happily, and it's just an amazing day. And so so it's
So I'll get my invite earlier next year, will I?
absolutely, I
Good,
promise.
So you obviously get the top scores. What happens to the person who's at the top of the leaderboard? What do they get?
So the children get prizes as well. So actually, Go Henry was a sponsor of ours this year. So Go Henry, that does the debit cards,
Yeah.
children's debit cards. So they are or were a sponsor. So they actually sponsored all of the individual prizes for the children. And that worked in the way of region and age group. So every child from each region in their age range, so 5 to 7, they would have got a prize, and there was some Amazon vouchers so that they can go and buy physical books or whatever they want to get, because we are all about and we were talking about not one size fits all and everything with dyslexia and so on. And it's like, do you know what? Through Fonetti, if people can build that enjoyment in reading, then want to pick up those physical books, then that's what we're doing it for. We want to give children the options of a book that is going to work for them, or a reading material, a type of reading for them. So, yeah, if we're getting kids reading, because we know that the only way to be confident in reading and to want to read is to read, right? So, in any which way that we are getting children reading, then that's a win.
Definitely. And when the whole, they said the Read Aloud Challenge is to open to all children from 5 to 16, I think it was.
15, yeah.
5 to 15. Is you're not aiming at those who are reading all the time. They're welcome, but your main aim is the other end, those reluctant readers, those who don't have the confidence.
We have an array of different types of children. So we've got kind of those reluctant and struggling readers. And for me, that's where it obviously really hits home for me because of my personal experiences. But typically, we absolutely have the avid little bookworm on there as well, because they want those certificates. They want to come to that awards ceremony. So they are absolutely, and also we report back to the schools at the end of the challenge with their data. So we can say to a school, okay, so if you've got a school with 120 children in, for example, we can say, okay, out of those children, we had 80 active readers throughout the challenge. We can tell them exactly how long little Freddie read for, how long Alice read for, how many stars they got, how many books they read. Collectively as a school, we can tell them the impact that has been made for their school as well. So those insights are really, really great for the schools, and also give them the excitement of the fact that they are getting their children reading. I remember the year before last, I think it was. So I get the privilege of calling those winning schools, and it is absolutely phenomenal. And I remember ringing one particular school, and I spoke to the receptionist and I said, "Oh, it's Vicki from the National Read Aloud Challenge. Can I speak to Gareth?" I think his name was. And she's like, "He's a little bit busy at the minute. We've actually got Ofsted in." So, okay, that's fine. I said, "If you could just let him know that it's me and I'm ringing with some good news," because the schools are aware that there is a competition and that they've got a chance, and they know whether they're high up on the leaderboard or not. Anyway, within about 15 minutes, I got a call back from said Gareth, who then was like, "I am with Ofsted, but I heard you called and I know today's the day. I had to come out and I had to take the call. I had to call you back." I was like, "Yeah, you've won." He's like, "With what?" I was like, "You've won for your region. You are the top school in your region." He said, I think like we cried on the phone together. And then he went straight back into that music. And with the biggest beam on his face, said to Ofsted, "We have just been awarded the most engaged school for reading over the summer holidays in our region."
Extremely powerful. It's one of the things there is, Sometimes learning is done to a child. Most people say we learn with the child, but sometimes when you're a child, you're bored. It's the opportunities to really engage and get stuck in aren't always there. And I think reading is one of those things where you can truly get stuck in, and literally your only limit is you and needing to sleep and your parents telling you to put down. And that's one thing I like about reading is the last book I read, which was only in the last month. I don't always get a chance to read, but there's the Project Hail Mary, which is a film coming out. Looks really cool. My wife accidentally bought the book on my Kindle. I went, I'll give that a read. I started at the airport at 10 a.m. I finished the book in bed at midnight. I was just reading. And it is, when you enjoy a book and you're just really engrossed in it and you just want to keep going, it's so good. And it's one of those things I just want everyone to experience it. When my daughters have read a book and they've really enjoyed it, you just hear them talk about it. Yeah, those children, it's the fact that you've got that summer long, you've got all that content, they can find the books. You're not having to, when you have physical books, especially against W.H. Smith or Waterstones, you've got to buy a book. You've got to choose one out of all of them. You've got to know what you like. And in some ways, having that huge collection of books where you can just choose stuff, probably get partway through and give up and go on to another one because it's not actually what you wanted. It's helping children find that love, find what they like about the reading. I'm quite fussy with my reading. I don't read huge amounts of books. But I'm also trying to try different types of books that I've not done before. Reading it's a very personal learning thing. So as well, like you're learning in the classroom and all that stuff, but reading is access to learn. It's that you can shape what you want to read based on your interests, and that reading helps you explore all those areas you want to explore. And as you said right at the beginning, the research is 1 in 9 children own a book. That's really shocking. I wonder what the stats are for children who access libraries in some form. But actually, that reading, especially through libraries where it's free, that is huge. That's untapped potential that children could be accessing and exploring their interests in the same way the Fonetti Reading Challenge does that over the summer, or the Read Aloud Challenge does over the summer. Because the Read Aloud part, again, is that bit where it is helping them be more confident. It's not just a case of getting through the book, it's helping them. And that's where the stars come in, isn't it? You mentioned the stars, and we haven't mentioned them yet. So tell us about the stars.
So yes, so it's based on the fluency, and obviously it's improving the child's oracy as well. But so with the stars, the child can earn up to 3 stars when they finish a book. So that's obviously based on their overall accuracy. But whether they get 1 star or 3 stars, there is always a well done. There is always a fanfare and positive reinforcement for the child. And I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, and you're totally right, there is absolutely no judgment when reading on Fonetti either. So it really does help children to want to read. I was in a classroom a couple of weeks back, and I was with a group of Year 5 children. And after the session, we launched Fonetti in the school. And after the session, this particular little boy come up to me and he said, I don't like reading, but actually, I really liked reading on that Fonetti. I think it's going to make me more confident. And I was like, that's this. This is absolutely what we're doing it for. And yeah, if you can give children that independent reading tool, and I think especially over the summer holidays with the National Read Aloud Challenge, or even with reading at home engagement throughout a school year, parents don't always have the time to sit down and read with their child. Or it could be like myself, and parents and carers might not even have those literacy skills to be able to read with their children. And equally, so the way that the platform's designed, we actually built the automatic speech recognition in partnership with the University of Edinburgh. And we've designed it to recognise all UK accents, but also where English is an additional language. So again, where English is an additional language and maybe the parents don't speak English, and so they're not able to help the child with their learning or sit down and read a book with them. And we've actually had feedback from through children and schools to say that actually by children reading at home on Fonetti, it's actually helped improve the parents' English as well. So there's so many aspects as to kind of that why that independence in reading is so important. And 6 weeks, as we mentioned earlier, is a very, very long time. And like me, I'm a single parent. I'm still working over that 6 weeks. And so I'm not able to spend as much time with my child as I want to. And he's older now, so he's more independent. But with those younger children, and before now with Ollie, it is really, really hard to juggle that and to make sure that they've got the right balance and they're not just gaming all the time.
Yes. Interesting. I was ended up going to Next for a random read at the weekend, but I was walking through the furniture bit. And you know, when you go as a pet, as an adult to a furniture shop, it's going to be a while because you're thinking and making decisions on where the wardrobe will go, where the bed will go. And there was these just two young boys, definitely in primary school, were just curled up on two sofas with a book. And it's one of those things of physically they're in that shop, physically they're kind of just sitting there waiting, but they're in a book, they're lost, they're in a world of their own. And that's the sort of thing I think books can really give you, is that escapism, all that thirst for knowledge. If you are really into space, you can go read whatever book and just fill your mind and push on in that area. But they're not going to pick up a book unless they're confident. That's the bit, I think, is no one's going to pick up a book unless they're confident they're going to read it. And also it's that being judged. And I think one of the reasons I love Kindles is no one knows what book I'm reading. I'm not reading weird stuff. But that's the whole point. No one knows either way. But my daughter wouldn't read big books. She loved the Harry Potter films, but I showed her a Harry Potter book. It scared her. It was too thick. She wasn't confident. So she got a Kindle for Christmas, and then you can get loads of free books on the Kindle, like the first in a series. I bought some Diary of a Golem or stuff, some Minecraft books, which were free. But I saw one which was a proper big 300 odd page book. So those little short books in a really big book, but I just didn't tell her. And I gave her the Kindle, she went, and she came back like a day and a half later and read all the books. I went, all of them? She went, yeah. I went, all of them? She went, yeah. I went, even this one? She went, yeah. We started talking about it when you've read that. And I could tell by what she knew about it, she had. I then got the Amazon website up, which told her it was 306 pages long. I then picked up the Harry Potter book, which was however many pages long, but similar. And I'm like, you've just read it. And you just see it on her face. And that was it. That no book scared her again. But if you're the other way, if it is, you are behind, yeah? And especially when you have those books in class, everyone knows which stickers on a book is which level. Everyone knows the best one. Everyone knows that's the best one. And what have you got? I'm on brown. Whatever it is, they know where their level is. And when they pick up that book, or they've got to choose one, they know all their friends are choosing that one, but they're not allowed. They know they're already being judged. Yep. They're going to have to hold that book and be judged. And there's something about when you have it on that device, no one knows. No one knows what book that child is reading. And also what I like about it is you can get through that book onto the next, You're not waiting for an adult to take you to a library. You're not waiting for your next week, for your teacher to hear you to move on. Whatever it is, you can just move on to the next book when you are ready. And I think you've had some children who've really excelled, really pushed on that reading in a really short space of time because they can go at their pace and they've got that confidence being built.
Absolutely. So when Fonetti is used in a school setting, the teachers assign the books to the children and they assign their ability at the child's reading ability, and they can assign that to whole class or individual children. But like you say, the child is not aware whether they've had a level 2 book or a level 8 book assigned to them. I mentioned earlier about the news desk that we started recently curating. And we, as I say, we do a new one every single week. And we've got those in 3 different levels. So you've got beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And so a teacher can assign that particular news desk to all the children in the class, but at their ability. So they are all reading about the same subject and topic that's going on right now, but they're reading it at a level that they are able to get to read.
It's important. It's not about keeping information from someone. That's a new desk. I like that. Is if someone's at this level, they access it at that level. If they're at this level, they can still access. They can still understand what's going on. The text might be simpler. It might miss out on some of the detail and some of the nuance. Overall, they're going to get the same understanding of what's going on. And again, it's that confidence. Confidence is so important. But if something's going on, if you're not able to read something, you can't join in.
Yeah.
So if you can read it at a lower level, I now know roughly what's going on. I get a bit more. Actually, I know something about that. You can now be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And the children at the different abilities have read the same, as you say, the same topic, so they can have a whole class discussion over it. Or in a family, a younger child, like a younger sibling and an older sibling, can read that same article. And then you could be sitting there at the dinner table as a family having dinner and discuss that particular article because both children have read it. Ability for them.
I think everything you're talking about, to me, the bit I keep hearing and keep saying myself is that confidence part. And going back to your difficulties with reading through your childhood, it was the impact of dyslexia. It destroyed your confidence. It's kind of that confidence is the bit that kind of allows you to step forward, to push forward, to do things. And your kind of lack of confidence in reading can have a really big impact on lots of other areas. If we can keep that confidence up, then you'll be confident to go in for that thing and do drama. You'll be confident to do that. You'll be confident to be part of this, to share you talk about oracy skills, which is another big thing the government's going to be talking about a lot over the next few years with a new curriculum and so on. Actually, those oracy skills, be able to contribute, put your hand up in class, all those things from the reading aloud part are really, really powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is. Confidence is huge, isn't it? It is absolutely. If you're confident with anything, with what you're talking about, what's kind of confident about what's going on in the world, or yeah, it is such a huge. It can be a game changer, can't it?
Yes. I think more than people realise, and that's the sort of thing, is we all have good days and bad days. Yeah? Good days, you got this coming up, you got that coming up, I'm going to do this, we're going to do that. But actually, if you're struggling with reading, and then there's a new government white paper coming out, which is going to impact your child's education, how confident are you going to understand what's changing about that? There's lots of things that we take for granted that actually, where are the barriers? How often are you not confident in being able to do something because you haven't been able to access the information, you're not quite sure. And suddenly, where your good days and bad days, actually, it's not you still want to have your good days and bad days, but actually you're kind of, they could be better days with your confidence. The fact that you can actually have that confidence in reading that information, understanding that information so much more. Again, I just keep coming back to it because it is things that I take for granted that I never, ever have thought about. And then when I talk to those who are dyslexic and struggle, and they talk about the impact it's had on that life, I realize how wide those implications are. That even as an adult, it's not all I've now cured my dyslexia. I'm not moved on past my dyslexia. Now I've got my GCSE. Dyslexia won't impact me. It doesn't. It will always impact you. You can just shape your life more. And someday you'll get away with it. But there are going to be days where you're going, actually, I have to read that. I'm going to have to take that on.
Yeah.
And I've got to. There's no way around it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I find more so than my struggling with reading now, because I am now a confident reader, I'm just slower than the average person maybe. But what I do struggle with my dyslexia is kind of that short-term memory, and like the memory side of things is something that I feel is most probably more problematic for me than actually the reading. But then I've overcome the reading concerns because of my job, I suppose, and because platform's been designed for children, but it has helped me as an adult as well.
That's the thing is, yeah, and it's interesting because it's your mum is the other co-founder of.
Yeah, she's the CEO and founder of Fonetti as well. So
I'm literally going, wow, that's a parent who's really gone over the top. She's got you into not one private school, 2 private schools. She created a company to help you learn. What a mum.
she'll be clapping right now.
But it's that's the thing is that confidence. Yeah, it's shown that you're struggling with your short term, or it's a barrier. But actually, you've kind of worked on it. You support yourself. You've overcome that challenge, and you are a confident reader. You know you're slower, but who cares? That's me at my pace, and I'm good with this.
No.
That is confidence. Just hearing you say that, not saying, "Oh, yeah, I'm all right," and just not mentioning that I'm a bit slower.
No.
Being confident enough to say, "Yeah, I'm a bit slow, but it's fine."
No.
That is the confidence. There are things that people will always hide about themselves to others. And I think when you're really confident in who you are, you will hide those things less.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I equally think things kind of happen for a reason, don't they? And I'm a strong believer of this. And I was at an event last Tuesday, and I don't pick up a book for pleasure all the time because of timings. I'm a single parent to a neurodiverse child who keeps me on my toes, and I work a lot because I love my job. But yeah, I was at this event and there was a draw to win some books, and my name got called out, and I actually kind of went over and I was like, thank you. And they gave me a wad of like 4 books. And this top book was called The Power in You. And something just, I don't know, I was drawn to it, absolutely drawn to it. Anyway, the following night, I sat on my bed and was like, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm just going to open and just read the first section to see if it's something that grips me. Well, I think it was 300 and something odd pages long. I literally, on Wednesday night, read it for a little while. And then Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning, I woke up at 7:45 in the morning. And the first thing I'd done, I went and made myself my green tea, then got back into bed and carried on reading my book. I did not get out of my bed until 4:00 Saturday afternoon because I was so addicted to this book. I had fallen for this book. It was absolutely amazing. And it was all very kind of brilliant, very recommended. But no, it actually, I related to it. So this lady, Rachel Humbleton, I think her name was, she talks about how she's overcome situations in her life and so on and so forth. And she talks about, there's a section in there about each of her children, and two of her children are autistic. And so I really, really related with that, with Ollie and everything else. And so I could not put this book down because I was like, okay, now we're going on to this bit. And now the last bit she's hanging is like relationships, I think it was. So I was like, I'm not moving until I've read this book. And I absolutely love those moments when you can make the time and just lose yourself in a story. And I think it just makes the world a better place.
So
right?
would you class that as one of those self-help books?
I think so, yeah.
Because that's the thing, it's one of those, I keep seeing everyone go, oh, have you read this book or this one, now that one or that? And I'm literally going, no, just no. And then there's one I picked up, which is called Atomic Habits, which is a big one. And I literally, I kept it in I have a travel bag. Whenever I go anywhere, I have a travel bag. It's already there. And the book has sat in there for about 3 months. Not done anything, but I bought it and it sat there. And I finally picked it up and went, I'm going to start reading it. And this is a self-help book. It's about how if you can change, and atomic is not big changes. It's a small atomic level change, tiny little change, which can slowly deviate the path you're on. That's the whole point. So you make slightly different, but how can you make those habits easier to make and all that sort of stuff? But it's one of those bits, as I'm reading on it, I am like you, I'm reflecting. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, I do struggle with that. Okay, so that's what I could. And it's kind of, you're reading on one level, but another bit, you're kind of reflecting on yourself and thinking about how am I in a situation. And I get to a bit where it says, oh, you should do this. I'm going, I did do that. And I did change. And it then tells you why. So to me, again, if you're not reading, there's a whole source of information and being able to relate to people. And social media is fun. But when you've got a 5-minute video or 140 characters or 3 paragraphs of text, you're not really getting much nuance. You can't really understand it. When you get a whole book of somebody kind of breaking things down or taking you on that journey and taking you to that complexity of life, then you can really start to understand it. But it takes a lot of pages for you to get to that depth, for you to go, yeah, I'm on board with this. This is going to make a difference. I'm going to change, or I can relate to that. Or actually, and you probably got up from that book and you've probably done a couple of things slightly different.
Oh, absolutely.
Your view on certain things has changed.
Well, I'm going to start talking to trying to wake my 16-year-old son up for school in a different way from now on, I think, because, yeah, just talking about how an autistic child sees things. And it's not I know, but it's not until you see it in black and white, right, that actually then sinks in.
Sorry, that is just a perfect phrase for a dyslexic person to say. It's not until you see it in black and white. And that's the whole point, is when you see it in that reading, when you get opportunity to read it and reflect on you and you go, oh.
Yep.
But if you're not reading, you're going to miss out on that information. I'm not saying your life will be better or worse, but to me, it's that you said you already knew it. Again, so it was perfect. It was like, I already knew it, but it's having it in black and white, having that moment to reflect, having that time focused to read and to think. I realized, actually, I could try something different. And to me, that is the kind of power of reading, whether you're listening to some person doing this or climbing Everest, going around the world, whatever it is, motivational stuff. That isn't a book. That is you kind of changing how you're viewing the world, you seeing things differently. That comes from you reading. That comes from you not watching a TV with your friends. That's a very personal you and a page. And I think if we can help our children to be more confident readers, they're going to do more of that reading. They're going to kind of maybe see the world slightly differently from their limited experience to actually someone who's done that when it's quite boring, actually. He thought it was going to be great, but it was quite boring. I'd rather have done that. And you're going, wow, he did all of that. And Again, the power of reading, we just take for granted.
It just opens so many doors of opportunity, doesn't it? It
Does.
really does help you lose yourself in someone else's story and take you to places that you wouldn't necessarily be going in your day-to-day life or and yeah, it does. It gives you that curiosity, doesn't it, of maybe thinking of the bigger picture, of wanting to do that something that you never even thought of before. And yeah, just makes you adventurous. And
It goes in more than watching a TV program, doesn't
of
it?
course it does. I find that if someone's reading something to me, if someone's telling me something, no, I can't take that in. That doesn't work for me. I have to read it aloud, look at it and read it aloud for it to sink in. Because even when I'm reading silently, I struggle harder to understand and take in what I am reading when I'm doing it silently, other than when I am reading it aloud, because I then feel like I'm hearing it as well as seeing it. And it's kind of just that repetition, isn't it? And it really does help things sink in for me. So, yeah, I most probably look like a nutter at my desk, kind of reading whatever's on my computer screen out loud quite often, just so that I can make sure I'm getting what's going on and what I need to do.
Do you know what I've realised I do when I silent read? I read aloud in my head.
All the time. Yeah.
So while I'm reading and I'm silent, I'm saying it inside my head.
Yeah.
And that's the time I literally go, read it again. And nothing's coming out of my mouth, but I can definitely 100% hear the words in my head, in my voice. And it's that sort of thing. I also, when I'm reading certain books, I have a discussion going on in my head, which I can hear around. Yeah, not going to get that in watching a TV program or a film or anything. There are things which I literally go away and go, wow. But it generally leads me to reading. But it's that, yeah, absorbing that knowledge and that being in your own head.
Yeah.
Which is powerful. Any other book recommendations?
I could think of a few. The only other book that I've ever read cover to cover ends in grey. So, and that took me over a year to read. So I was very committed at reading that book. But that is literally up until that point where I went on holiday a couple of years ago, that is the only other book that I have ever.
Is that The Life and Times of Dorian Gray, that one?
Yeah.
That one?
Something like that.
Something like that. And Jeremy Clarkson was saying, on that bombshell.
Maybe edit that bit.
No, that's in. Your mum knows. Thank you for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed it. And the Fonetti Challenge, the Fonetti National Read Aloud Challenge for this summer is now open. And in the show notes, you'll find Vicki's contact details. You'll also find information about Fonetti and the National Read Aloud Challenge. So all of that is in the show notes. So go have a look at those. And as always, you'll find the show notes wherever you listen to the podcast or on the SENDcast website. If you want to get in touch, let us know your thoughts, suggest topics or anything else, please message us on social media. And you'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and Blue Sky. Or send an email to hello@thesendcast.com. The SENDcast is created and produced by us here at B Squared, and we help to show the small steps of progress pupils with SEND make. And we help schools to show progress from starting point for a wide range of abilities and ages. And we have frameworks to suit children from birth through to 25. Huge range of frameworks. And at the very bottom, we have our engagement steps designed for those children on the engagement model. And you can build a profile of the student needs and show that small steps of progress they are making. Visit the B Square website or click on the meeting link in the show notes to book a meeting with me to take you through our assessment software. But for now, thank you for listening. We will be back next week with another episode of the SENDcast. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye.
Bye, everyone.